I want to give you a brief taste of a case study discussion where a lot of what you'll be exposed to in a graduate business program is where we try to put you in the shoes of a manager making a business decision. So rather than just tell you how things work and what the theories are behind them, a lot of the different pedagogy that we try to bring to a graduate classroom is more experiential. So one of the ways that I like to teach is through the case method, where you'll, in advance of the class, you'll have to read a case study, prepare, do some analysis, and come into class ready to sort of make decisions and argue how a company or an organization, nonprofit or government or a manager should act in a given situation. Now, we didn't make you read any case studies here, so I chose one that should be familiar to many of us. And this comes from about 2/3 of the way through the strategy course in the full-time MBA program that I've taught the last couple years, where we have a major acquisition by a major company. In 2014, Facebook paid $22 billion for this small messaging company called WhatsApp. Anybody heard of those? Yeah. And then this fits within the strategy course. This is a piece of corporate strategy on mergers and acquisitions. So there's all sorts of theory behind it. There are toolkits, and you would have prepped those and read up on them and done some analysis of the case. But for now, we can just jump right into it. So I'll give you a few facts here. WhatsApp at the time of the acquisition, this is 2014, had 50 employees. They made $10 million in revenue. And their profits were negative $130 million. $22 billion purchase. Facebook, meanwhile, has about 1.35 billion monthly average users. So these are users who go on and log on at least once a month. They made $8 billion in revenue. Of that, $1.5 billion was earned as profits. And then, many of you probably know this, but to refresh it, they bought Instagram just 2 years before this for about $1 billion. WhatsApp has 600 million monthly average users. So start with, who here has WhatsApp? You get to sit here, Matt. So why do you have it?
It's easy to send videos or photos.
Okay. Ease of use. And then you can send videos or photos as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're getting ahead of 2014, so I won't write that up there yet. They didn't have that then. But what could you send in 2014? Messages, right? Okay. So send messages via data. Okay. Anna, you had your hand up as well. Why do you have WhatsApp?
Because most of my friends are.
Okay. So friends are on it. So if you don't have it, then you won't be able to get the delightful group messages that people use to communicate. Yeah.
This is a real-time messaging service.
Real time. So what do you mean by that?
You could see if people had read your message. You could see if they were responding. Versus before there was iMessage, you didn't know.
Okay. Yeah. So real-time messaging, this is sort of like this, a little bit like texting, a little bit. Although, except you can see what they're saying. Okay. Why else might you have downloaded WhatsApp, Christine?
I really like the opportunity to develop smaller, tighter communities to share with, rather than broadcasting my life to a cast of 1,000.
Okay. So you can, there's through group chats or something like that. Okay. Which is a bit more private. Yeah. Harp.
You can use it for international communication.
Okay.
Other methods are available, for example, texting.
Okay. So, and how much does it cost to send a message internationally? Nothing, right? So you can international, and it's free. What else gives WhatsApp users value here? Yeah.
We use it extensively for our work because you can put documents in there as well
Okay.
and communicate and collaborate with your teammates.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure we were sharing files yet here, but back in 2014. But you can foreshadow some of what new features might unroll. Yeah.
I can see who was online what time, right? So, like say, like somebody was online 4 a.m. in the morning or something like that. So that kind of like interesting.
Okay. So maybe we can say the interface. You like the interface. How would you describe the WhatsApp user interface?
Simple.
Simple. Anything else, Norman?
And keep a unified user interface for all devices, those platform agnostic.
Yes.
Regardless of the device you're using,
Uh-huh.
same experience. At the same time, it didn't block out users for at the time BlackBerry Messenger was available at the time. So you don't get access to BlackBerry Messenger if you were a BlackBerry user. So this gave clean experience across all platforms.
Okay. So we've got simple, user-friendly, and clean. And then it's multi-platform, multi-country. Anything else here? Yeah, Sam.
It's encrypted.
Encrypted.
I don't know if it's encrypted back then, but
Yeah, it absolutely was. So, and then for those of us who aren't data security people, what does encrypted mean for a regular user? Secure. Okay. Okay. Did we miss anything here? Harvey?
It's relatively easy to start it up.
Uh-huh.
And you can be in China and everything else doesn't work. Okay, let's try WhatsApp.
Okay. So it's simple, clean, and then it's really high performance, right? Fast. And this gets to the real-time messaging. What about its price? It's free.
It was $1 then.
Yeah. Initially, good technological history. I like this. It starts out at this time, the pricing model was free for the first year. And then 99 cents yearly after. Okay, so we have this great thing, right? It's real time, it's clean, it's secure. You can send these messages and group messages through data. It's easy to use, multi-platform, multi-country, and you don't have to pay anything for it. What's not to like, right? This is a $22 billion company. So is this a good business? Yeah, absolutely, right? It's a great product. It's free. Works really well. Does that make it a good business?
No, it doesn't make any money.
Oh, we've got a problem, right? So it not only doesn't make money, it's bleeding money. For the privilege of this, their investors are paying $130 million per year. So why doesn't it make any money? Justin?
Well, because it's essentially free.
Yeah, okay. It's a good point.
Top line's hurting.
Yeah. So it's free to user, but still has some costs associated with it, right? Millions of messages are crossing through its networks on a daily basis. I forget the stat, but you need servers and infrastructure and all this to deal with. Is that it? Is that our only problem with this as a business model? We're not charging anything, and we have to pay for customers. Imagine if there were a restaurant like this. Great food, fast service, and it didn't cost anything. Would you pay $22 billion for that restaurant? What else is wrong with the business model here, or the business? Yeah.
They don't seem to be continually gathering any source of revenue other than that.
Uh-huh. So there's no clear path to revenue. Is that right? Or no clear source of revenue. What about this? $1 a year. Does that pay the bills? Pays $600 million. That's not bad. So if you're collecting $1 from everyone, $600 million, can you cover costs? Yeah, right? So maybe you can make a few $100 million a year with this, if everybody's paying. Yeah.
It's replaceable.
Replaceable. What do you mean by that?
Because you can actually, if you require some sort of similar technology or not to, you can actually just copy it.
Okay. Imitable. Right. Another company could imitate this business. So, is anybody else doing messaging back in 2014?
They're growing competitors,
Mm-hmm.
like WeChats and Line and others.
All right. So we look around the world. We've got WeChat, which is sort of this similar size. Where is WeChat's customer base mostly? China. Viber. Anybody remember Viber? Anybody still using Viber? Not so much. Line. Japan. Nice. Kakao. Korea. Okay. So there's already a bunch of messaging apps. How do these guys make their money? Are they all like offering this free delicious meal?
They did a lot of ads. Viber, I think, did a lot of ads.
Uh-huh. Okay, so another thing that we like about this clean, fast interface is that there's no ads. So these guys, we've got ads. How else do they make their money?
The Line, we have, if you want to download the stickers, that costs money.
Right. You can download electronic stickers, right? Stickers, emoticons, and you can pay for those. What about WeChat? How did they make their money back then? Well, you could download these same sort of stickers and stuff, but they also had games. So once you're in the app, you can play a game and pay for that game. So not only can another company create a company that does this, but others have. They have hundreds of millions of users, and some of them have found ways to make revenue. Are these relevant for WhatsApp as they consider their growth strategy? Is that what their founders are imagining that they're going to do, maybe? What's wrong with WhatsApp selling stickers and games?
So not doing that differentiates them from existing
Okay.
other platforms.
So it might not differentiate them. What does differentiate them? So we've said a bunch of stuff that's great about them, but some of these apply to their competitors too.
But they are providing ads and which users would not want, for example. So it's a clean, user-friendly
Uh-huh.
platform. That might be the unique selling proposition.
Okay, so maybe their competitive advantage is how
That
clean the interface is.
less encryption and security.
Uh-huh. Okay. It's secure, it's clean, there's no junk on the screen. And so if they're going to be trying to market stickers to you, imagine you're seeing which friends are online or something, and then you can buy a smiley face or something and send it to them. Kevin? Okay. Yeah. So in addition to all these great product features, they have users. And that's why we said, my friends are on it. Right? Why is existing users valuable for a company? Okay. Because maybe you'd have to pay more for new users? Why else? Yeah.
When you look at Facebook's models, what they've done is use a free model to then convert those people to bring in advertising and other features and increase revenue and eventually get to profitability.
Okay. So maybe this is just a teaser. And then eventually, like Netflix, it's just going to ramp up. You $7.99 becomes $13.99. So they have a potential. So here we could say, can monetize later. But we're still, and then coming back to this users bit. So what's the value of users to a company? Did you have something?
Yeah, so we already tested, we already know how it is. So one day all this, even if they charge, we don't mind paying. And because of having a large scale of users,
Yeah.
we can move on.
Okay, so the more users they have, the more money they can have. Okay, yeah.
My guess at this would be that, I think more and more it's becoming important to anticipate where your customer is going, and WhatsApp probably had the most overlap of users with Facebook. Because I'm thinking ahead, WeChat would be really attractive in some of the other Asian competitors because of the growth there. But if you're thinking about industry disruption and knowing that, look, your existing user base could eventually drift over to Instagram or drift over to WhatsApp, it's really about buying up the disruptor.
Okay.
So that would be my guess.
You're getting ahead of my discussion
Oh,
here. So in a second, we're going to come to Facebook's logic. But even when you're thinking from Facebook's perspective, so we can go there, what's the value of WhatsApp's user base? So one is they might have some overlap. But what's the intrinsic value of the user base? One, we can charge more people $1. Or if we decide to sell emoticons, which we said isn't going to be in our core competency.
I'm not sure if this is what you have in mind, but it's habits. Once people get used to using a certain app, they might not want to switch. There's a cost to switching.
Okay. So there's what we'd like is some customer loyalty. Does WhatsApp have that? And what drives that loyalty? It's pretty. It's fast, it's secure,
It's reliable.
it's reliable,
We're accustomed to it.
you're used to it,
Yeah.
it's free. What else keeps you on it?
Everyone else is on it.
Everybody else is on it. Okay, good. So this is also becomes a source of differentiating advantage, which is that when there's other users on it, what's worth more to me right now? If you're sitting at home and you're like, I need to hang out a bit more, should I download WhatsApp or should I download Kakao? Kakao has great features. I can play games in it. There's much cuter stickers I can download. But there's only one problem, right, if you're here? Which is that all of Kakao's users are in a different country. So it's of less value to you. One of the sort of benefits here is that as each additional user signs up for a platform like WhatsApp, it increases the value to other users. Because now you're connected to a larger potential group of people. So we call this a network effect. And network effects in many industries, especially in the tech side, can become really important. Okay, so we have this awesome business with some sources of competitive advantage, which in strategy we define as what you can do relative to other firms in your industry that can put you towards a path of higher profitability. WhatsApp has a bunch of these things, but we have some problems. They're not making any money, and someone could come along and repeat it. So now we come to Facebook. Facebook, Christine said, is interested in WhatsApp because of their users, and they're similar users to Facebook. So that might be good, right? You grab current users who are maybe flirting with another company and you keep them in your orbit. Okay. What other reasons might Facebook be interested in WhatsApp? Yeah.
Kind of how they expand their market.
Okay. So not just overlap of users, but new users.
It's easier to move through whatever else source of revenue.
Uh-huh. Okay. So Facebook's having this perennial popularity issue, right? Because of the fads that come in and out with social media. And they're always terrified they're going to lose their teenagers and so on, who will be the future users. But now we've got all these, younger people. The average user of WhatsApp is probably mostly in like the 25 to 35, but then there's a tons of under 25 as well as under 45, whereas Facebook's users are getting a little bit older. So we've got new users, we've got existing users. What else?
Potentially anticipating consolidation of social media platforms.
Okay. So what does that mean?
Well, I mean, more and more of these competitors are cropping up, and if you kind of look at the pathway traveled by other industries, you see a lot of kind of competitors rise up, and then there's this time of consolidation. So if they're thinking far enough ahead, they're thinking, gosh, you know what, this is going to happen. And since we're the largest player, there's an opportunity for us to dominate and kind of create this consolidation of social media platforms.
Okay. So I guess you said two things. One of them is you said earlier they were a potential threat. And then now you're saying there's maybe a set of different social media applications that could be enveloped in one company. So I might go to the same umbrella company for my messaging as I do for my whatever, timeline, and so on. And then, so some cross Crossplatform Returns. And how do they make money in this world in which, I mean, there's two kinds of what we could say multi-business unit businesses. One, it owns unrelated businesses. You might own a drugstore and a restaurant and a parking garage. And you can say, oh yeah, well you can park at the garage and go to the restaurant. But really they're separate businesses and it doesn't matter too much. And another one, they're really related in terms of the business in one overlaps with the business in another. So for example, you make steel and you own an iron ore mine. And then we could say those are really, related to one another. How is messaging and going onto Facebook and posting pictures possibly related? Data. Say more.
Well, the data of the user and what their information is that they're applying to their, I don't have Facebook or WhatsApp, so. The information that they're plugging in the system on themselves, let them know what they like, what they dislike, when they're using it, what time they're using it, what stores they like, what advertising they like.
So don't we have a problem here, though, that WhatsApp is encrypted and therefore won't be producing useful data for Facebook?
Well, as long as they can change that.
Oh. So maybe it used to be hard to identify. Remember, at the time, all you needed to sign up for WhatsApp was your phone number. And so, maybe they can maybe they can ask their Facebook users what their phone number is and then cross-reference it and get something. But we've got a problem here, which is that WhatsApp doesn't create much data for the parent company. And that's part of their value proposition to potential new customers. But we said maybe in the future, Facebook can do something. Okay, there was something else here, data on the users. Oh, well, anyhow, let's go back. What else is in this for Facebook to acquire WhatsApp? Kevin?
They launched Facebook Messenger, and it wasn't very good.
Right.
So I didn't try to get users, or do I want to use it? So maybe you buy one that actually works, and a lot of people use it, so you could learn from why is it successful.
Okay, so tried launching Messenger, and it didn't work. So in strategy, we say the number one reason to acquire a new company is because you have a strategic resource gap. Your firm has a capability or an asset or something that it needs in order to be more successful. Now, Facebook already has a messaging app. It's called Facebook Messenger. But maybe they're not good enough.
They're restricted to Facebook users as well.
Okay, they're restricted to Facebook users. Why would they want to restrict the value of a messaging app?
If we're not users, then we wouldn't have a reason to just join their messenger.
Okay, so yeah, they want to steer traffic to their website with this, maybe. So what do you do if you have a strategic resource gap? Let's say you're Ford Motor Company. And you're like, well, we think the electric car might be a big deal. We don't make one now, pretend this. They do like, what is that, C something?
Fusion.
Oh, the Fusion's electric now. But they had this really small, nice, good. Yeah, C-Max, that's right. So it's sort of in a world just before the C-Max, they're like, well, electric might be important. How should they get it? Should they go buy Tesla or Fisher? That's sort of the equivalent here, right? Or they could just put some of their engineers to work, come up with an electric car. Maybe they'll buy a small battery company or something like that if they figure that's the thing that they need, but Ford knows how to design and build cars. Can Facebook design and build a messaging platform? How long would it take? Or how much would it cost for them to build something like this? In the back.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Wanted to.
How much?
Less than 22
Just
billion.
existing.
Less than 22 billion existing engineers. Remember, there's 50 employees here. It was founded in 2009. So maybe Facebook puts 100 people on it. Do it in a year. We could do the math. It's going to be less than 22 billion. And they have one. So what is their strategic resource gap that they see that it's worth paying some money, a lot of money? 10% of Facebook's market value for WhatsApp.
To bring the user base up, it will cost them the same money.
Okay.
Cost of acquisition of customers.
Okay. So we've got cost of acquisition. Of new customers. So you do some math here. 22 billion, 600 million customers. What is that? 10, 40 bucks or something a customer? Can't you get a new one for less than $40?
But then also the user base gets divided because everyone who's already using WhatsApp, they will continue using WhatsApp because of its simplicity, the user friendliness.
Okay. So maybe you can't get them because they're happy with this whole set of things. Now, how does Facebook make their money? Ads. Okay, at the time here, the global market, mobile, is around 20 billion. Growing pretty quickly. That's just mobile. Facebook gets, at this point, a little over half of their ad revenue from desktop users. Is this helpful to them for getting ads, ad revenue? Yeah.
At that time, people were desktop, and now probably most people use Facebook off the phone.
Uh-huh.
And those users will use WhatsApp on the phone all the time to send a message to Facebook.
Okay. So we've got this move to mobile. WhatsApp's like good at mobile.
Maybe that's when they moved their Messenger app out of Facebook into its own app?
Yeah. It was, yeah, they had started it just before that as its standalone, and then they eventually forced everybody to sign up for it. But is WhatsApp's business going to help Facebook's revenue model of selling ads, mobile ads? We've said part of the value of this thing is that it doesn't sell ads. So why did they pay 10% of their market value for this company that doesn't feed into their business model? Talent. $50 engineers? Well, maybe 40 engineers and then 10 business people. You hear about these acqui-hires. We can put some talent here. Imagine the salaries they could pay these guys, though, to less than 22 billion. What talent are they hiring?
Maybe the savings
think of any challenge from competitors.
Okay, so what do you mean by that?
So Google, for instance, or Apple, for instance, right? So
Okay.
potentially taken by WhatsApp.
Right.
in the future.
So we've got preventing Google or Apple. Now, another rule of acquisition is that for the acquired company should be worth more in the acquiring company than on its own. Then it makes sense to do it. So is WhatsApp a more valuable company if it's in the Facebook ecosystem or if it's on its own? So you've said maybe it's not so much about that. It's just about, it might be worth more to Google to have WhatsApp in its orbit. So does WhatsApp's value emerge when it's owned by a Google or a Facebook?
It's a space they're not in already.
Okay, so that's sort of, we're back to this, there's going to be a bunch of platforms, and we should be active in all of them. But Google sells ads, Facebook sells ads, WhatsApp doesn't sell ads. Oh, it's almost time.
I think the overall strategy is like WhatsApp is more of a functional product. Facebook is more entertainment. Maybe they want to keep it separate, to overlap each other.
Okay. So, all right. Well, let me just wrap it. So we'll hand it back to Kristen. You have a little taste of the MBA case method approach. And the concept that we're trying to look at here fits within strategy course, which is how do I get my firm or business unit to have a competitive advantage, to be better than other firms in the industry at making money. Then the bigger goal is how do I get a sustainable competitive advantage, which is to not just do it today, but to do so in a way that will allow me to prevent others from taking my position in the future. And then within strategy, which by the way is just one of the dozen or so core areas of management. In addition, you'd have accounting, finance, marketing, leadership, organizations, sustainability, lots of other areas, all of which have all these moving parts that you'll be trying to assemble and get a grasp on. So within strategy, this fits into the area of corporate strategy, which is how I think about a business that may have multiple products under it. We first looked at it just as a standalone business, which is messaging, and then we began to consider it as part of the broader umbrella of a Facebook or a Google, and the different kinds of value or profitability that can emerge when you're managing a suite of companies. Now, as it turns out, lots of acquisitions aren't successful. So then you need to understand reasons for that. Managers have hubris, or they fail to take into account the cost of absorbing and integrating the acquired company. But in the case of Facebook, looking back, many people would argue that even at the time, though this decision was ridiculed, this was seen as a good move. Instagram seemed like a lot of money when they paid $1 billion for it, and clearly that's been a home run for Facebook. Initially, they brought it on, they promised no ads and stuff until a few years, and then gradually they started letting these, nice photograph ads enter and begin to monetize it. And then in the case of WhatsApp, Facebook is thinking along these multiple platforms, as well as it just came out in the news yesterday. I don't know if anybody saw it, but a bunch of the internal emails from Facebook were released as part of an antitrust case where they highlighted the messaging vertical or industry as one of the most existential threats to their future business. And so they were interested in acquiring it to prevent WhatsApp itself from being a competitor. And then, of course, thinking along this cross-platform side to look at the potential benefits. And then, of course, they moved to monetize things in the ensuing years, as you've probably seen with WhatsApp Business and considering peer-to-peer payments, and then integrating the data more deeply into Facebook to be able to understand how to target users. Facebook's revenue per ad or per 1,000 views was much lower than Google's at the time, so they were a much blunter instrument for selling ads. So in the MBA classroom, what might have gone differently is you would have brought more analysis, you would have come with harder views that you would have walked into the classroom with. You would have run some numbers, you would have had the underlying frameworks, and argued on how to put these into the sort of data from this case to understand it in those frameworks. So let me wrap it here and I'll hand it back to my colleagues. And thanks for your contributions. This was great.